What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today we're going to be taking a look at the results of the Chill Series number 16 online tournament, which was held on January 13th and had over 200 players participate in it. So these results are fairly valid and relevant since there were so many players playing in it and it's just happened, so it's very recent as well. The reason we're looking at this one specifically is I want to take a look at the 6th place and 5th place deck lists, and we'll also start out with a quick look at 3rd place. So those decks are going to be Mad Party, Orbital VMAX, and Cinderella VMAX, which are just testaments to the variety that is available in standard format currently. Although I don't think many of the decks play very differently, these three are more unique decks than we are used to compared to the ADPZ, PTCGO, Eternus, Centiskorch that we've been seeing at the top of the meta. I think it's pretty interesting to see these decks succeed. So definitely want to check that out with y'all today. So we'll be taking a look at those lists. Shout out to PhotonStore.com, the best place for you to get PTCGO codes. Use code Celio for 5% off. So Mad Party is a deck we've all seen before, so let's just look at that one quickly to start things off here. I think this is pretty close to the lists that most people that are playing Mad Party have been piloting. The Giovanni's Exile is nice to discard your Dedenne and Crobat off of the bench, as long as they have not been damaged yet, and that's particularly going to be used against ADP, or even maybe any situation where the multi-prizers are going to lose you the prize trade or let your opponent catch up. But specifically against ADPZ, Giovanni's Exile can be very good, and I do think Mad Party has more of a fair shot versus ADP than the community might have been alluding to. Just because if you go for a large hit on the ADP turn 1, because of these double great catchers, you can do that more consistently. As long as you can knock it out after they alter creation, that's what's really important. You don't want to let them get to ultimate ray. So if they go first and you go second, you get to attack into them, get some damage on the ADP. That's what's really important, and the deck can beat ADPZ, I believe, because of that. If we'll just take a look here, it looks like Simon was able to beat an ADPZ in round 2. Also beat a Luke Metal, which can be a pretty tough matchup because of all the damage reduction. Beat another ADPZ in round 1. Excuse me, of phase 2, and then tied to an ADPZ in the last round of phase 2. So definitely possible to beat ADPZ with Mad Party, and I think Mad Party really poses a huge threat to PTCGO as well. Now let's look at the two more interesting decks here. So 6th place, Swiss Fiaro piloted Cinderella VMAX. Cinderella VMAX has been overshadowed by Centiskorch ever since Darkness Ablaze, and even prior to Darkness Ablaze, Cinderella VMAX didn't get a ton of love. I did think it was a cool card, but it never really saw high levels of success. It saw some play, but not high levels of success. So since you might not even be familiar with Cinderella, let's just take a quick look. It has 320 HP, and the main attack here is counter. For just 2 energy, it does 30, and if this Pokemon was damaged by an attack during your opponent's last turn, this attack does that much more damage. So if your opponent hits you with Dread End from Eternus for 270, you're smacking them back for 300 because the 30 plus whatever you were hit for. And in the event the opponent doesn't hit Cinderace, you always have Max Pyro Ball. So in the event they don't hit you, you have Max Pyro Ball, so that means you're hitting things like Zacian for a one-shot knockout because they're weak to fire, and you're doing 170, which is plenty of damage to hit them with. And what's really nice is if you miss your welders, counter just takes 2 manual attachments. Now, I've seen most Cinderella VMAX decks play Malolana, or even some Hyper Potion from time to time as a healing option. This one's not playing those healing options, so I am a bit surprised to see that. So it does make you wonder, at what point is Cinderace VMAX just inferior to Centiskorch? Because Centiskorch can do more damage for 2 energy than Cinderace can, and it also accelerates energy to itself, and it has a higher damage output possibility as well. But this is the second time in the past week or two that we've seen a Cinderace VMAX deck actually perform well, so you have to think there's some merit to it. Let's just take a quick look at the matches. So it beat a Colossal, lost to a Colossal, beat ADPZ, lost to Mad Party, lost to Eternatus, and then ended up losing to the same Eternatus in Top Cut. It beat a Centiskorch. I mean, they played against mostly meta decks and then toss in Mad Party, which actually, I guess you could consider a meta deck for this tournament since it did end up getting third. So they played against all very relevant matchups. So maybe keep an eye out for Cinderace VMAX. And the next one and the last one we're going to take a look at here is I Am Fluke Ovo, who piloted Orbital VMAX. So we have seen Orbital VMAX before. We've seen multiple variants of it actually in the standard format. So this one's pretty cool. So Orbital VMAX, if you don't know, it has the Eerie Beam ability. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon. You can use as many of these abilities as Orbitals you can get into the active. So if you have Orbital, use Eerie Beam, spread 1 to everything. Bird Keeper into another Orbital, spread 1 to everything. U-turn board retreat into your last Orbital, spread 1 to everything. So you can use up to 3 Eerie Beams a turn with this deck. And then it has the G-Max Wave attack, which does 50 plus 50 more for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So an attack that can do a lot of damage actually. And that is going to be your main attacker. Your other attacker that you can use when you find an opportune time to use it is Pheromosa and Buzzwole tag team with the Beast Game GX attack. For a grass energy, if your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out by damage from this attack, you take 1 more prize card. So you can, if your opponent has 50 damage or less on them, you can use Beast Game GX and you take an extra prize card. So this can be very, very relevant versus something like ADP that you might miss by a couple damage counters after Eerie Beam and G-Max Wave, and then you come in with Buzzwole Pheromosa to take 4 prizes on an ADP, and then from there you only have to knock out 1 more Pokemon. It has some neat tools. It has a Mimikyu to shut off Mewtwo and Mew tag team's perfection. It has Mr. Mime to stop people from using scoop up nets on the smaller Pokemon you're trying to knock out with Eerie Beam. You've got Wondrous Labyrinth to mess up your opponent's energy requirements for their attacks, Malolana to heal some chip damage that might occur, and you also have Lily's Polka Doll to either sit behind for a turn or help you pivot in and out of your Orbital VMAXs. So all in all, very cool deck. Definitely has a weakness to fire decks, but fire decks do load up a lot of energy, so you could always get lucky with maybe an opponent's over aggression, and you can G-Max Wave them for a ton of damage. Also note, this does play weakness guard energy, so you do stand somewhat of a chance versus fire decks. And like I did with the other decks, let's just check out the Orbital VMAX's matchups. So it went on a 7-0 win streak to start the tournament off, beating Eternatus, Mew3 Welder, Mad Party. We'll have to see what this deck was. It's listed as other. Galarian, Darmanitan, Frostmoth, Decigoons, Eternatus, and then finally losing to Centiskorch. We'll see up here, it actually did get a win versus Centiskorch, and here it did beat the Reshizard Baby Blondes plus Cramorant variant. It tied to a Pika, so that just looks like an ID in the top cut. it actually beat Simon, who got third with Mad Party. It beat him twice, and then ultimately losing in top 8 to Luke Metal, which that's just going to be unwinnable. You're never going to win that matchup with something like Orbital VMAX. But I wanted to cover these tournament results because these lists were pretty cool for a 200+ player tournament. You know, it'd be a little different if, let's say, 20 people entered the tournament and Orbital got top 8. I'd say, okay, well, by product of elimination, like some deck had to get top 8. It's only 20 people, but 200 people in this tournament, lots of meta decks. If we go look at the meta game, lots of top performing decks: 31 Scorch, 21 Zacian ADP, 21 Eternus, 18 Picaro, 14 Zacian Luke Metal. Not exactly looking like a, you know, a rogue filled tournament with all of the typical popular decks at the top. So kudos to these players for being able to perform well with a little bit of well, definitely rogue decks with with Orbital and Cinderace, and then Mad Party being a deck that's in the meta but not one of the top few decks. So I just wanted to cover that. Hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you want to check out these lists and import them for yourself to PTCGO, you can check them out on play.limitlesstcg.com. And if you might need codes to build these decks, you can get those over on potownstore.com using code CELIO for 5% off. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for daily Pokemon TCG content. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.